Welcome folks, we're currently about to take off at Leeds Bradford in the Honda Jet in MSFS, in the PIMAX Crystal once again. And yeah, this video is kind of my impressions on the NVIDIA versus AMD debate, especially for, you know, flight simulation and VR particularly. How do they stack up in 2023? Well, since I've used both high-end GPUs, I thought I'd give you my opinion on matters. So yeah, we're going to take off. And before that, as always, a very quick word from FS Academy. FS Academy really does take your flight sim knowledge to the next level. In fact, you'll be greeted by a real pilot and instructor which will guide you through a series of different training exercises, from a GA pilot all the way up to being a full airline captain. In these tutorials, you'll get real bespoke sort of instructions, and it will really feel like the pilot is right there beside you. You'll be surprised how much knowledge you'll pick up, even if you're a seasoned veteran like me, or if you're just starting out. There is definitely a training package for you. I'll have links in the description below where you can find FS Academy, and I highly recommend that you give it a go, and it's why they are sponsoring this video. Right then folks, welcome back to the channel, and we're about to take off now. We're in the DOF Reality H2. Of course, I always am in this thing when I'm flying. I love it. Motion platforms, while it's just, oh my god, especially when you feel yourself take off like that in a jet. It's amazing. Oh, it never gets old. Look at that, the sun glinting off the wings there. Beautiful. Anyway, sorry I'm digressing already. Right, anyway, so I've been in a very lucky position to have borrowed both a system that has a 6900 XTX and a 7900 XTX GPU. I also currently own an RTX 4090, and I've owned a 3090 and a 3070 Ti. So I've got a bit of a good handle now on my preference for VR. And let's not muck around folks, it's obviously going to be NVIDIA. That is definitely my preference when it comes to VR. And I'm not going to go into the whole sort of price wars and how NVIDIA cards are overpriced, because they are overpriced. Absolutely, they are too expensive. But, you know, that is a whole subject for another time. But this is all about the performance and whether you should buy an AMD GPU. And I don't just mean the top end, but also the middle ground GPUs as well. Say you're after a 4070 or a 4080. But maybe is it better to get a 7900 XTX instead? Well, as I say, I have used a 7900 XTX for quite a number of, well, almost a couple of months in fact. I have videos on the channel of that particular system, and I was actually quite surprised with the performance. It was pretty decent. In fact, it reminded me of the performance of a 3090 Ti GPU, which I've also borrowed. I'm not quite sure how those two cards stack up in terms of pricing, but I would definitely go for the 7900 XTX, you know, if it was a case of either that or a 3090. You're going to get better performance. But the problem I have with AMD in general is the drivers. They're not very good, especially when it comes to VR. AMD really aren't a manufacturer that I trust for VR. That also weighs in when you consider that headsets like the Varia Aero, for instance, doesn't even support AMD based cards, and as far as I'm aware at the moment, PIMAX are looking in to bring in AMD support for the Crystal, but it's not a sure thing right now. It just seems like AMD, they're the kind of risk you take when it comes to VR performance, especially with their drivers. So in terms of my recommendations, it's an easy one. I absolutely recommend NVIDIA all the way when it comes to VR. I know they're more expensive, but you are going to get a better experience, especially when it comes to driver support. Right, let's just get on our course here because it's not wanting to play ball with me. We're heading to Edinburgh today. Although you probably won't see the full flight. If you are interested in full flights, guys, on the channel, please do let me know, because I really would like to show more. But in terms of views, of course, they don't really do that well. Not that I'm just all about views, don't get me wrong. But, of course, I'm going to do the content that people crave the most at the same time. So, yeah, we're now over the Yorkshire moors. Beautiful. And, yeah, actually, we could do with going a bit higher because we're right in this cloud layer here. So, of course, when it comes to the top end, the RTX 4090, if you can afford it, and I appreciate it's a very expensive card, I've yet to come across anybody who regrets buying that card, because I never expected to see such a massive performance upgrade with the 4090, because in flat screen mode, it doesn't really give you that impression unless you use a DLSS 3. But it's not until you use high-resolution VR headsets like the Crystal and Vari Aero and Revo G2 as well, that you notice a massive jump. But yeah, getting back to the AMD versus NVIDIA debate, you know, it's a tricky subject, and I'm probably going to upset a lot of people by saying that, I'm sorry, NVIDIA is definitely the way to go for VR if you can afford it. But, you know, the new generation 7000 series AMD cards are definitely getting better, without a doubt. But let's be honest here, I still think NVIDIA are leading the way when it comes to VR, and that is my opinion based upon my VR experiences with both GPUs. Now before I go, I'll just mention that I will post many of my comparisons, because I've done many FPS comparison tests of AMD and NVIDIA in MSFS and DCS as well. I'll post a couple of those videos in the links in the description below. But I want to know what you think about all this. Am I wrong? Do you prefer AMD to NVIDIA? Please do let me know your thoughts. I'm going to carry on to Edinburgh now. Thank you so much for watching. As always, I truly appreciate it. Please feel free to subscribe, and I'll see you again very soon. Take care and bye for now.